Hi, welcome to Velvet Underground. My name is Nicole Reilly. I have created this space, Velvet Underground, as a place for women to come together to find their power, find their purpose. And this podcast is to bring other women with like minds to the forefront to explain a little bit about what they do in this work and helping women also to find their purpose. So I'm bringing to you first my friend Annick Burke, and she is joining me. Annick is so special to me. Annick is someone who, for me, when I was going through a struggle in my life, I didn't really know where to turn. So, with the help of my husband, who bought me a gift certificate to see Annick because he was like, I need her to find someone to help. Um, it was a beautiful story and how they wound up knowing each other. But Annick brought to me truly, she helped me find my sense of purpose. So Annick is a Reiki master. She's a certified hypnotherapist, and she's been in the holistic field since 2001. She's completing her master's degree in mental health counseling with a specialization in substance use disorders, which I think is so awesome. That's just I can't wait for you to reach that point in your life. Her passion is facilitating a connection for her clients, a connection to themselves, their soul, their higher purpose. She offers her holistic services and spiritual support at her practice, which is, I love it. It is on Canal Street in Mid-City in New Orleans, and it's called Oak Heart Wellness. And just to let everybody know, her website is oakheartwellness.com. And I love having you here, and I love your space. I know that you're in your space right now. It's such
Yeah.
a beautiful, beautiful spot. And I remember meeting you, Annick, for the very first time. And I know that you came to your healing work through massage therapy. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And I also know that when you still do massage therapy, is that something you?
I do a little bit. It's kind of being, I would say, phased out. I've been doing it for about 20 years.
Yes.
As my career has evolved, I've found that my purpose has also evolved beyond that as well. So it's an exciting transition that I'm experiencing actually right now.
Yes, I'm so excited. I just love being a part of that journey. So while I remember you from a long time ago when you worked at a massage place over here, a spa, I remember you then. And I remember people would say about you, oh, I just had a session with Annick, and I came out and it was the craziest thing. She was like, can I tell you something? You have a lot going on, and you would just like beautifully give them like an energy reading, and everybody left, and this was like so new that people left and they were just like, oh my gosh, I never thought of anything like that. So I know I have the chills while I'm talking about this because it's so exciting, but I know that for a lot of people that I've spoken to who now know you personally have said that you just were one of those people that really opened people's eyes to a different way of seeing things.
That
But
means a lot.
I know, and I know that when I told you how you changed my life, I know for you that was a complete shock. Like you weren't expecting that.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't because I think that when we step back and allow the spiritual energy or the universal energy to work, and we're just witnessing the beauty of someone's growth, it's very easy to forget how important it is that we held that space. I know that you can relate to that. And so to me, you're the one that did all the work. I just got to watch this amazing transformation happen. So when you said that, I was like, what? That's amazing.
I love that too because I feel that way a lot in my work as well. And when people are like, you just changed everything, and I'm like, really? Interesting. You know what I mean? Like, really? Like, I can't even take credit for that. We're just like that conduit, that facilitator. And, but I want to tell a little story about you and I to begin with, and then I really want to delve into more about what you do. When I met you for the first time, first of all, it took me a while to come in to see you. I kept canceling my appointments. I was a little bit not afraid. I think for me, it wasn't a fear of hypnotherapy or like what you did. It was more a fear of, for me, of like taking that step, because I knew that if once I took that step to move forward with this work, that there was going to be no turning back and no forgetting what I had witnessed, right? So for me, it was really a preparing myself to be ready to accept the change that was coming for me. So I called you. I remember this one time, and I said, Annick, I can't make my appointment tomorrow. And you said, you know what, Nicole? And I love that you said this to me. You said, you know what, Nicole? When you're ready, you're ready. I'll be here when you're ready. Just call me when you're ready. And I was like, well, I'm ready. You know what I mean? I needed you to say, I'm not hanging on this, girlfriend. You let me know when you're ready. And that's when it really hit me that I had to be ready. Okay. And so I had the experience with you. I came into your place where you are right now, and it was the most peaceful and serene and beautiful place, and just your own. And it was just gorgeous. And I just felt you all around, and I just felt the connection that I have with you instantly. And I mean, it's not like you and I are friends. We don't hang out. I mean,
Right.
we don't. So I want people to know that this is not, you're not somebody that I hang out with all the time. You're someone who facilitated something for me that completely changed my life. And so just I real quick came in and did hypnosis with you. But my reason for going in was because I was trying to make a decision in my life on which way to turn. I, with my gift, do I come out into the world and do this work, or do I do another type of energy work? And that was really what I was discerning at that time. And so when I had the session with you, it was so powerful because it was so gently led by your voice, and you gave me the reins to speak my words, and you were just transcribing, and you were speaking, and you were guiding me through. And when I came out of that session with you, I sat up and I was just like, oh my God, like that was just mind blowing. And I was like, it wasn't like I know what I have to do, but it was like it gave me freedom to make a choice. It made me see things from a different perspective that I'd never witnessed before, in the form of going back in a past life where I did have that ability to heal. So I felt like I should have come out and went with the healer role, because that was what I felt in my, like that's what I saw, but I knew that I had to come out with the role that I'm playing now. So by saying that, and going there with you for a minute and telling my story, I would love for you to maybe just explain to everyone a little bit about like what you do, what is past life regression, what is hypnosis. Can you just kind of tell us a little bit about that for people who really have never experienced it before?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around what hypnosis is, and we think about the stage performers that, make someone cluck like a chicken, and they're a lot of fun, and I do think that it expands our understanding of what the mind and the soul are capable of. But for the purpose of healing and the purpose of seeking and understanding and liberating ourselves at a soul level, hypnosis works very differently. And honestly, it's just getting into a relaxed enough state and creating this really solid space for your soul to express itself. Because during our daily lives, it doesn't have the space, because the soul speaks very quietly.
Mm-hmm.
Life is just too busy for that. And so what we do is we bypass this, right? We bypass the logical thinking, and we explore what your soul and what your subconscious mind really want you to know. And sometimes even your higher self, and sometimes we connect with guides, and things along those lines. And so it's these little quiet voices that all of us have that are really challenging for us to listen to. And so by getting into a relaxed space, we create the space for you to listen to those deeper messages. And so, like you said, you're not going to leave my office with this, oh, this is what I'm going to do. What's going to happen is it's going to unfold naturally.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to unfold easily because you have, in that moment, given your soul permission to express itself.
You said something just now, and you said the soul speaks so quietly or so softly. And I love that because it's such, I mean, that is a profound understatement. And I feel like one of the things that I was a little bit anxious of when going to see you was, that thought of being like put under, you know what I mean? So can you explain a little bit about that? Because I had just started meditation at that time, so I understood what it would feel like in a sense. But can you explain that a little bit about how hypnosis works and how you're really not putting me under any control, okay? Because people were like, she's gonna control me, and no, it's not like that. So can you explain that a little bit?
Of course, because I think, I kind of wonder if I could put someone under control, would there be a bank in the neighborhood that was robbed? Of course, I wouldn't actually do that. So first, I do want to say that when you were talking about feeling the anxiety and canceling appointments, that is a very common experience. And that's actually when I know that someone's kind of grappling internally on, they're at that crossroads. Am I going to take this path or not? And I completely honor and respect that. I am used to people coming in and being like, I am so scared right now.
Yeah.
Fine. That it's understandable. I mean, what you're doing in this room is really powerful. So, but as far as the hypnotic process, honestly, it's really underwhelming for most people because we think that we're going to be in this really deep trance, and it is possible to get to a trance state where you feel like you're asleep. The thing is that for the purpose of what we're doing, you and I, or the client and I, actually communicate, right? Like you were talking to me, and that's what I was writing down, what you were experiencing. So it's like you feel like you're halfway watching TV, halfway asleep, that sort of feeling, but you have to be awake enough to be able to communicate with me.
Yes, because I was going to say, you were asking me questions the whole time. Really interesting questions, too. Like, I remember you saying to me that you said, I know that you're ready when you see the red balloon floating in front of you. And I'm thinking to myself, this woman is nuts. We're going to be here all day. There's the red balloon. Red balloon, what the heck? So awesome. That was so great. So that's hypnosis. That is hypnosis.
Yeah, it feels a lot like meditation. It's very similar to the feeling of meditation. And it also kind of feels like you're making it up, right? You feel like you're making this story. And honestly, I can't say like, oh, this is absolutely 100% what happened to you. I don't know if it has to do with the movie you saw last week.
Exactly.
Regardless of the foundation of the information, your soul is using that to communicate with you.
Ooh, say that one more time. That's really cool.
Yeah. So regardless of what information your soul uses, using that to communicate with you.
I love that.
Right?
Because I think that a lot of people are like, oh, I can, I went back to this era because I just love, Egyptian artwork, right?
Or maybe you love Egyptian artwork because you were.
Exactly. Because you were in Egypt at one time. Exactly.
And there's no way for us to know. But I have a story of a client recently who she was having issues with really bad nail biting. And this is someone that I've worked with regularly. And we did a past life regression, and she had all of this very intricate information about being in like a dynasty in China in the 1300s. Sometimes you do get that specific, sometimes you don't. And she was talking about how the nail polish she was wearing was very important because it noted her status socially. Now, her and I have no understanding of that, no knowledge of that. So that night she went home and Googled it.
Yeah.
And the colors that she had talked about during the session were accurate when she looked it up.
Wow. So she's like, if it's red, it means this, and like these different colors. She goes back, she Googles it, and they were accurate.
Yes.
That was an accurate description.
Yes.
See, that to me is so, it's like this. And that reminds me of like mediumship, for example. Like I will connect into to someone who's transitioned, and let's say like their daughter's sitting in front of me. And I'll say, your dad is showing me this beat up 57 Ford, seat torn, like giving me descriptions of something. And she's like, well, I was born in 70, so I wouldn't know. Right. And I'm like, okay, well, for what it's worth, write it down. And if you want to do something with it, go ahead. And so 9 times out of 10, they want to do something with it because they want to see if this is a message, right, or evidence. And they go back, and sure enough, they're like, I asked my father's sister, and she has a photograph of my dad in front of this truck, and she described it exactly the way that you described it. So
Yeah.
it's so similar because in a way that it is something that our soul knows, right? And it's something that we can connect in on a soul level with, because our soul has traveled. Our soul is what stays with us. Our soul is us. This body is not, it's just a shell. Our soul is with us. So our soul has had so many experiences before us, right? And so I'm always fascinated with how we take those experiences from our past lives and we bring them into the now. And this is why some of us, or most of us, if like when I had the past life regression session with you, I saw myself as I saw this crystal ball. I saw myself almost as what maybe they would call a seer in a sense. And at the time, my mediumship was not something that I was doing professionally. It was something that I really had like hidden right here behind this door, and I had just at the time just cracked that door open. And so to see myself in that position and to see myself and it was a grandmother telling me back then, like, you need to carry this on. You please carry this on. And so of course in society there was like a fear of me coming out with myself, especially Catholicism, New Orleans, and so there was a little bit of fear. But it was because I knew deep inside my soul that I was chosen, in a sense, from past lives. Not chosen like you're the chosen one, chosen meaning like I've already done this. So this is second nature to me. Just like I feel like a painter, I'm sure that they have painted before. Right. Prodigies, children who are prodigies, they are painted before. They didn't just pick up a brush, So it was that, but for me with past life regression, it was just going there and being able to witness that part of my life. And once I witnessed it, I couldn't deny it. And so that's why past life regression was so profound for me. Just like now, I'm sure with your client, that's just like a revelation about yourself that you cannot deny.
And that's why past life regression, a lot of it isn't so much, if someone comes in and they're like, I just want to know who I was, we're not going to get very much. And even if someone says, okay, I want my focus to be, what is my soul purpose? What we have to actually ask is, what is preventing me from acknowledging my soul purpose?
Ooh, girl.
And
Uh,
that's where the juicy stuff comes in,
mm,
is what am I not sharing with the world? What am I not giving myself permission to do? What am I hiding from myself? What have I been tortured for in a past life that I don't realize? Those
yes,
are things that have to be healed. And
yes,
the path opens up. And it's not like, unicorns and rainbows after that, but it's usually pretty clear, the basic
yeah.
path, right?
Yes. And I also want to say, too, talking about going to see you and why my husband even reached out to you in the first place is because I was going through a point in my life. I had given up my nursing career, and I had found myself expecting after my oldest one was 18, my middle one was like 10. So, and then expecting a third one. And I was at a point in my life, I was 38. So I was just like, I'm struggling with this because I felt like this was my time to find my purpose or what I was supposed to do in life. My kids can kind of like handle themselves. And then I was given another child. So for me, I had like this deep, I'm going to say postpartum depression, but honestly, for me, it was an awakening sense because I used that time to garden and connect and be one and stay in my pajamas all day and focus in on my work. And you were part of that work. And so I do believe, like you're saying, it's not something that you're going into and it's like I didn't say, today's a great day, it's sunny, beautiful outside, I'm going to go have a past life regression to learn my purpose. There was a lot of work that went in beforehand before I went to see you. But it was you who helped me to see things from a perspective, an energetic soul perspective that I had never even thought was possible. And that was the profound impact that you made on my life, because I thought, if that's possible, then what I feel as though I'm able to do as a medium is possible. Do you know?
And and what I think is really cool about it is, by you honoring what your soul was telling you, now, the way that we have stayed connected is now I get to send people, I get to refer people to you that need that further connection. And then you refer people to me when they need to connect in that past life regression sort of way. And so it's all part of um this larger experience of being in service,
It is.
of lifting people up. And so to me, that connection is absolutely necessary.
Yes.
You know,
I love that. And something that I know that you and I agree on is, like we had said before, when people have ever mentioned us, one of us, and said, just like I did for you, and said, "Oh my gosh, it was so profound," and you and I are both like, we're the conduit. We're like, thank you. We are so honored to be in this place. We are the conduit. We are simply the guy that you can touch that's flesh. You know what I mean? We are the conduit. So on that note too, I would love, we had talked about, tell me tell me a little bit about, so you, because I have a lot of women on Velvet Underground who are, kind of really in a place of, they may have jobs that they've been doing forever. Like, let's say they work in a law firm and they've been doing this forever and it's what they do, but they're really getting older and wiser and recognizing that there's more out there in life. And so they're at a place in their life where they are maybe saying, you know, what's in it for me, like what is my purpose. And I know that you and I both agree on, like, asking the question, like, what's my purpose, is a little bit how should we say it, like, it's very broad. Like, what's my purpose, it's very broad. It's more like what's some what some steps, how can women find the next step towards spreading their light, I guess I would like to say. But so on that note, could you tell me a little bit about, how you went from massage therapist to hypnotherapist to now being in school? Because I think that your story is just a beautiful story of showing up and being a massage therapist and then working your way through. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So my first experience with any sort of spiritual modality was through Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
I was 17 years old and experiencing a horrible amount of anxiety, frequent panic attacks, and I just didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I didn't feel comfortable in the world. And my mom saw me struggling, and honestly, she said, okay, well, you have two options. You're either going to, you're going to go talk to this lady who was a Reiki master / hypnotist, or we're going to bring you to River Oaks, which is an inpatient psychiatric facility.
So stop right there for a second. Whew. That's deep. So could you tell me a little bit? I don't know that I've heard that story before. So could you tell me a little bit about, because I know that I have some friends that their daughters are feeling that way right now, especially not going back to school and really suffering with social issues. And here comes the distancing, and I don't have to tell you the rest, but can you just describe a little bit about what you were feeling at that age?
I knew that it was like I didn't want to die, but I didn't know how else to get out of the pain. And so how my mom found me was huddled in the closet because I just didn't feel safe in the world. Mm. I can't even imagine what our little young ones are going through now with social media, because that wasn't a thing in my time. But like, my thoughts have never fit what was around me. My body has never fit in the way that other people's had. And there was this really deep gaping hole, and I didn't know what was causing it. I didn't know how to fill it. I just knew that it needed to stop. And fortunately, my mom recognized that, and she knew that I was struggling, and she was able. She didn't know what was going on, but she knew that what was going on wasn't good. It's like I didn't know how to verbalize it. I mean, I'm almost 40 now, so it's very different, and it's interesting because it feels like such a distant, long time ago thing, but I also remember that pain very, very specifically. And so, she brought me to this woman because all I knew is I didn't want that stigma of, I had to be pulled out of school to go to an inpatient facility. And, that being said, I think that inpatient facilities are definitely important. I actually work with a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists who acknowledge that sometimes what we see as mental illness has a spiritual underpinning.
Absolutely.
So we work a lot together, and that's also why I'm in, moving into the addiction field as well, because there's that connection piece. But so when I went to receive Reiki for the first time, I mean, I was 17 years old. Mom was paying for it, whatever, right? I was all and I remember like laying there and I'm like, this is weird. Something is going on. I don't know what it is. This lady's humming over my head, right? But after a few sessions, I'm like, I feel seen.
And right. Let's just explain too. Some people have never done Reiki. So explain Reiki just how you
Yes.
can, because I think it's
So Reiki is a either hands-on or like hands hovering like technique that balances the energy within and around the body. And so it's again, the soul speaks quietly. So it's very gentle. So as a 17-year-old, I'm just laying there and this woman's just, putting her hands in certain areas and, introducing me to the chakras. And I'm like, what is a chakra? So yeah, it's this very quiet, she didn't ask me any questions. I'm just laying there and we just connected spiritually. And I had no idea what that meant at the time. But of course, as I continued to experience those sessions, after about 3 or 4, I'm like, I don't know what's changing, but something's changing. And I couldn't look back. And I became a massage therapist so that I could legally use touch therapy. So in order to do Reiki, I became a massage therapist. And then I was like, wow, I'm really weird. Nobody knows what this is.
and you were so, but the beautiful thing too is that you were so young.
Yeah.
You were so young doing the work. And so am I right to I'm just assuming, did you not go into college after high school? You went straight into massage therapy?
I went to college for about a year because I was like, I really want to try and look like a normal person.
Yes.
And I thought I was going to be a businesswoman, and yeah,
Right now.
but I'm not wearing the power suit that I thought I was supposed to. I'm wearing yoga pants and a t-shirt.
Exactly.
Which is great. And so I was in school for like a year, and then I was like, I can't fight this anymore. So I went to massage school and then have had a 20-year career in that. And now full circle, I'm back in school.
Yes. And I wanted to mention that because because you're back in school now, and how I just love stories of unfoldment. And it's like because we're taught the structure to do what we need to do to taught to be grown-ups at 18 and make important decisions about college. And and then ultimately you made an important decision about yourself. And I know that it came from pain, and I know that it came from struggle. And what an amazing mother. Can we just acknowledge her for a second?
I love
I have
her.
the chills all over my body because
Yeah.
what an amazing mother that she saw that you needed something, and that she chose a holistic approach first, because she just her I'm sure her heart opened to that, and she saw that holistic approach first, that nurturing mothering approach from another female to come in and nurture you, right? And you don't even know what's going on, but you were like, mom's paying for it, I'll just laying here, right?
Yeah.
And then magical beautiful things begin to open up inside of you, and which leads you to massage therapy. And you only did massage therapy so that you can work on people, but then you start working on people and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and I'm so good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you move further. So now we're doing Reiki and we're doing massage. And so what brought on hypnosis?
So hypnosis was brought on because I wanted to understand why people thought the way they did. So it really started with women getting on the massage table and apologizing for their bodies.
Oh,
They're beautiful, amazing, like holding the goddess within bodies.
yeah.
And I'm sorry I have cellulite, or I'm sorry I didn't shave. And I'm like, I didn't shave for you. You don't have to shave. Right? And so I wanted to understand this pain. And then I also noticed that like we would have this hour where they were able to relax and let go, and then they would almost dread leaving the room. And so I'm like, well, what can I learn to support them in taking what they've experienced in this room and bring it beyond? And that's when I realized that the change had to happen in a mental, emotional, and spiritual form in addition to physical. And so, and at the time I wasn't, I didn't feel like I wasn't called to go back to like university kind of school. And so I went through hypnosis training and past life regression training. And it was in this place in San Francisco, and it was amazing. And we spent like it was like 8 days and 10 hours a day. It was brutal. And we spent in this, like, she would put us in a light trance to teach us. So by the end of it, my whole mind felt like jello, which is really cool because then all that information is like locked in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like beautiful training.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is
She
that
was
place still
amazing.
Is that place still? Oh,
I know.
I was like, share it.
I would have in a heartbeat. I'm actually still trying to find like someone to recommend. So, but yeah, so I had that training and then just started watching this like unfolding. And I think that understanding and sitting in my own pain,
Yeah,
what I needed to sit with other people while they were in their pain.
yes.
Which is why I think that I have to go back to school now, because as someone who's 17, 18 years old, I wouldn't have understood that.
Would you have perfect? Yes. Would you have really understood psychology and working with people's minds and things like that at that age? No, not saying that it's wrong to do that, but what I'm
Right.
saying is that it takes so much experience in our own lives to really understand and to be able to be purposeful in what it is that we do.
Yeah, I had a mentor call it, the path of the wounded healer. I needed to do some of my own inner work and have that deeper understanding before I went, back to school. And I do have, colleagues that I'm in school with that are in their early 20s, and they're amazing.
Absolutely.
But my specific path, I know that what I've already learned in the past 20 years is definitely going to kind of, in a sense, dictate what the next 20 years looks like.
Yes.
I needed that.
You did need that. I love that you accepted it and didn't fight it and took it on. And I feel like more young people need to hear your story. And more young women in particular need to hear that struggles are real, but struggles are also meant for us to push through and find different modalities that work for us. Because therapy for you, it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, but just like, for example, traditional therapy, it may have worked, but it wouldn't have been, it may not have been, it may not, at that time in your life when you're suffering, it may not have been as profound as having another woman, in a sense, show you or perform on you a healing art, or have you experience a healing art, right? Because I go back to like Reiki and I think of where it came from, how ancient it is, and how it's something in the form of healing that's been around for so long, and it uses someone else's energy, of course, connecting in, but using another person as the conduit for healing. And so I just feel like so often we forget how we as human beings can truly energetically heal one another. And Reiki is simply a form, a process, an art that you use, but you're the one that's bringing in the energy to do the healing. And I just find it fascinating that we all forget that as human beings, we can heal one another.
Yeah, and it is, to me, it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. I have a very minimal drama life. I have a lot of practices that, whether it's meditation or different forms of self-care. And part of that self-care has been like talk therapy. There's puzzle pieces, right? So the Reiki and the hypnosis have helped me understand what I learned about myself cognitively.
Yes.
therapy. And so it helps me integrate it. And so I actually, I work with a lot of, like I said, mental health professionals, because they're not meant to be either or, right? And I find that at some point on someone's journey, they may have both at the same time or one before the other. I needed to go through that spiritual process first.
And thank you for clarifying that, because when I said that to you, what I was trying to say was that I love the way that you chose an alternative therapy, because
Yes.
I feel like for a lot of young people, they're pushed into talk therapy, and for a lot of kids, it's not, that doesn't feel traditional to them. And I guess what I mean by that is, like, if we go in deep into a soul level and we go into like human nature and like who we are on this level, I would say that first we want to feel nurtured and loved. And I
Yes.
feel like that's a lot that children feel like they're missing out on in life, is that deep nurturing love that a parent can nurture them all day. But when someone else in the tribe steps forward and starts to nurture that child, it changes perceptions in that child's DNA and their mind and their subconscious. And so I love how it wasn't, how you took that approach, or your mom encouraged you to take that approach of just like, let's just sit and be, and then let's figure it out from here. But let's try that first.
Yeah.
And for some kids, that wouldn't work, but for some
Right.
kids, it would. And I love that you spoke about that, because I feel like it gives parents, when moms on here who are listening, who maybe have daughters who are going through this, sons who are going through this, in a sense, you just gave them permission to try an alternative therapy with their children, and watch how it works so well for you, and just seeing where you are now. And so now you're in a place of, so what will your degree be in? Tell us about that.
So I will have my master's in clinical mental health counseling, and I kind of serendipitously have specialized in substance use disorders, and of course, all by divine timing, because addiction is very much a connection issue. It's a disease of disconnect, of not accepting and not embracing who we are, not feeling loved and appreciated. When I sit in a group therapy session with people who are struggling with heroin addiction and methamphetamine addiction, and 99% of them, they feel, when they're sober, they hate themselves. And I said it that strongly.
Whew.
For a second, I was going to try and sugarcoat it, and I'm like, no. And so when they're sober, they hate themselves. So then that speaks to me, even though their experience is very different from mine, that speaks to me, that reminds me of that feeling that I had when I was 17 years old. And there are people that are anywhere from age 17, and I think my oldest client currently in the rehab facility is 60 something. So yeah, I have like my part-time practice, and then my internship is the part that I'm at right now in clinical mental health. And so, I sit in these group and individual settings, and I'm listening to homelessness and prison and OD. All of this has somehow stemmed from a brutal hatred of oneself.
I would love to talk about this for a minute, because I see a lot of clients, um, who my clients who have transitioned, right? I'm the conduit for my clients who are parents who have lost this child due to addiction. And can we talk about this a little bit? Because I will be honest with you and say this. When I'm connecting in with um, a person who's transitioned through addiction, A lot of times it will come in the form of, an overdose would be some way that they transitioned, or suicide will be a way that they transitioned. But 100% of the time, they come through. And when they give me this feeling of themselves having an addiction problem, the first thing that they say to their parents is, "It was me, not you."
Mhm.
And the parents, it's interesting because a lot of my parents are like, what did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough for them? So can you talk about that a little bit? Because this is really profound, just the things that you just said.
One of the ways that healing of substance use disorders occurs is in taking responsibility of the choices that are made, because it begins as a choice, and usually it's a choice to run away, to escape, to numb the feeling. And tying it back to past lives, we don't know what our soul still has to learn here. And sometimes that can be very painful. And it's hard because it's very similar to like the work that you and I do as facilitators, is very similar to parents with children who have addiction. We can't force something to happen. We can't take someone's pain away. And so there is a level of self-responsibility that that is present, that is needed when going through recovery from addiction. Most people who have OD'd and lived, it was not their intention to die. They needed to get away. And unfortunately, with substance use, they need more and more and more in order to feel normal. They're not feeling high. Someone who has a heroin addiction, after a very short period of time, they no longer feel high. They're using it in order to feel normal. Mm. They're using it in order to not feel the self-loathing. And unfortunately, sometimes that's just not something a parent can take away. And it's so painful, because of course I've also talked to family members of, the people who are in recovery, and I think this is true in suicide as well. We don't understand, so we have to place the blame somewhere, so it gets put on ourselves. Mm-hmm. A parent wants to take that pain from their child.
Absolutely.
But there's
a parent wants to take the pain away from their child when they have an illness, when they have the flu, yes, when they have a throat ache. I mean, parents are just like, oh, if I could deal with that, right? So it's only natural. It really is natural. Can we just say it's natural for a parent to want to take on the blame of their child's demise, and whatever that is. And it's natural for a parent to want to say, what could I have done? And it's natural for a parent to punish themselves. These are all things that are natural human nature, humanistic responses.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is that even if someone does go to rehab, there's no way to know if they're going to really allow what they're learning and what's coming up for them to come through, to take hold, because it's, statistically, unfortunately, it takes 7 or 8 times in rehab.
And for a lot of parents that are paying for this, that's everything. That's their life savings. That's everything. So it just combines, and it turns into this snowball. And then and then they feel like that still wasn't enough. But can we talk just for 1 minute? And I think that, and this absolutely pertains to what we're talking about right now, but I also believe it pertains to all of us as human beings. And that, and it comes in this, what comes into play with past life regression as well, is that we all show up in this lifetime with things, let's just call it things, that we have to work through. No one shows up perfection. So we all show up with things that we have to work through, and we all show up with the capability to work through those issues. So we all show up with a certain ability to work through issues, which is why some people get through it and some people don't. But so I don't want to just blow it off and say it's a life choice. Oh, they made their life choice. They made their choice. It was
Correct.
life. Okay.
Correct.
No, it's much deeper level than that.
Yes.
So can you just, we have a few more minutes. Can you just talk for a minute about is there any correlation, or how can we throw like past life into this? Or is any stories or anything that you can think of where people have come into like a realization about maybe like what they're going through has really been like a learning experience for them? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do think that that happens a lot. Like I was saying before, the path of the wounded healer
Mhm.
is, it's very common, even if someone's not drawn to the healing arts in the way that you and I perform it. You know,
Mhm.
you're like someone that worked in a law firm, that person can still create a lot of healing. Healing looks very different in many ways. And with past life regression, what I've found is it's facing a personal pain, that soul wound, that is of no fault, right? Like we're meant to learn from that. And when we face that soul wound, it gives us the freedom to like learn from it and to move forward from that place. And so it's not just like this whole like, oh well, I'm just not going to deal with this lifetime, so let me complete suicide, or let me use a substance and have an addiction. That's not how this works. It's just that everybody's soul wound is experienced differently for them, and even, I don't know, I kind of feel like soul wound isn't, to me, that's not like the most accurate way to put it. It's almost like the soul journey, the
Yeah.
soul learning.
Can I just say though that I think that for parents who are hearing this, I took a sigh when you said that, because
Mhm.
I feel like for parents who are hearing this story of what you're saying, and for siblings and whoever else have been affected by someone who has transitioned through the process of addiction, I just took a sigh, because I'm like, that is a beautiful explanation of, and it's also a compassionate and empathetic way to look at another human being who's struggling. If you could look at that human being as that deep soul wound that cannot heal itself. So, through the struggle, is turning to substance abuse to feel numb, because they cannot, it's almost like they cannot touch that space inside of themselves,
Yeah.
because they've tried conventional therapy, they've tried whatever, or they may have tried every therapy, holistic and conventional, and they still can't touch that wound. And so looking at that pain as just coming from compassion and empathy, and seeing that soul as having a soul wound that couldn't be cured. It's so, why is that so different from having a cancer that cannot be cured? Like, why the stigma?
Right.
Do you know?
No, absolutely, and that's one of the things that I'm very passionate about, because sometimes one of the things that I hear a lot is well, that person's life was great. You know, they had a great life. Why did they ruin it through addiction? Because sometimes people, their pain is so present and opaque that they cannot even see any sort of way out.
Yeah.
Can't see through conventional therapy, through medication. They can't see through even spiritual work.
Yeah.
I would love to say that, like, oh, well, if you do holistic healing, or if you do this or you do that, then yeah, absolutely, it'll be healed. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
You know, I unfortunately have a list of clients who have passed, and I have been part of their journey, but it, you know, it, I don't want to say it wasn't enough, but it wasn't, I couldn't decide for them what the outcome was going to be. So all I can do as a facilitator, as a clinician, and even just as a human being, all I can do is sit with them during the part of the journey that they choose to let me sit with them, and love them right where they're at.
I think that is the most beautiful words. Those are the most beautiful words to end this podcast on. And I just want to say how appreciative I am for you showing up for me today. This is, like I said, my very first podcast. It's totally done on a whim. And I just knew, because I just knew that I had to interview you. I just knew that I needed women to see you. And I, because I just knew that you not only are you here to talk about your work with past life regression, but you're here as a role model. You truly are. You step up. You're here as a role model. You're so young and beautiful, and you are so intelligent spiritually and intellectually. And you show up, and I know that you would have never dreamed this life for yourself at 17, but that was just a short 20 years ago, right? 20 whatever years ago.
Yeah,
But
22 years ago. Yeah.
there you go. It was just a short time ago. And look at how far you've come. And I say this to you not to make you blush, but I just say this to you because I'm so truly impressed and inspired by you. And I just feel as though you are a beacon, and you are one of those women that I want other women to witness, to see what you've done in such a short time. And you never, ever took that conventional route. You were soul led. Your mama's soul and your soul. I mean, you were just soul led, and and you looked to the next thing based on feeling, not this is what I need to do in my life. And so I'm just so blessed to be your friend, and so honored that you're in my life. And I want to
And I want you to know how important the work that you do is, and holding this space for women, and the realization that this is needed. And it takes a very strong and special spirit to be willing to hold this space and lift other women up, right? Because that's unfortunately not something we see very often. But to actually, I know I'm tearing up over here, it's brutal. Like, thank goodness for waterproof mascara. But I mean, to be willing to lift other women up, what that's doing energetically for the entire planet is very important. And so this podcast on a whim, universally, and
maybe that should be the name.
podcast on a whim, yes. I think you and I both know that from a spiritual, universal perspective, this podcast was anything but on a whim.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree. Thank you, my love.
Thank you.
And let's do this one more time. So I have Annick Burke. She is in Mid-City. She's uptown. No, I'm saying two things. She's in Mid-City, New Orleans, oakheartwellness.com. is how you reach her. And I'm so excited to see what you have in store. What's next? Oh, I know that people are going to be asking this one last question. Hypnotherapy sessions, can they be done on Zoom, or do you really prefer in person?
For past life regression, it's better in person. Other forms of hypnosis have been able, it works well on Zoom. Like if, they're just wanting, if they're wanting, like stress relief or a
Or
little,
stop smoking or things like this?
yeah. And if they're looking for spiritual guidance, but not in a past life capacity,
Huh?
the reason why past life regression I do find needs to be in person, at least for me, as a facilitator, is it's such a deep process.
Yes.
And so I really want to be there, right? Like
So,
look at my chair, like I
yes,
want them to be
and
there.
I want people to see you in person. I really
Yeah.
do. And
So
so if anybody's out there and like you're in California when all this stuff is done, you could just take a trip to New Orleans and you
yes,
could see
yes,
me and Annick, and
yes.
we could just have a great time, right?
Yeah, and the Reiki sessions I can also do via Zoom.
I love that.
Progression, you definitely, it's an in-person
It
thing.
really is. I just wanted to clear it up because I know I'm going to.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome. All right, my love.
All
I look
right.
forward to seeing you soon.
Absolutely. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Bye.
Bye.